Hey guys, the book of Romans really answers a big question of chapters 9 through 11, specifically on the nation of Israel, because the nation of Israel at this time there's a lot of question about the salvation of them. And so Paul attempts to answer this question in Romans 11, continuing with 9 through 11 is really where Paul kind of centers in on Israel. And he says in verse 1, I ask then, has God rejected his people? Then he says, by no means. And then he gives an example about explaining how there's going to be a remaining total of people who are saved from Israel. And he gives this example of the prophets of Baal in Elijah's time. And he gives this example, and it says, I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. So too, just in the same way as back in the day, Paul says, remember that Old Testament time when those 7,000 men didn't bow their knee? In the same way, right now, there are Jews. There's a remnant, a remaining total, chosen by grace. But if it is by grace, it is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. Then he explains that Israel failed to step into this grace because they did not have faith. Ephesians 2 says that it's by grace that you're saved and through faith, but Israel did not have faith. And it actually says in verse 11 through 24, a mystery. And he explains this mystery, and he actually uses the analogy of an olive tree. So he gives this picture of a tree. Paul writes, he says, that there are some branches that were broken off, although a wild olive shoot were grafted in among the others and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree. So God planted a vineyard. In Isaiah chapter 5, he uses the analogy that God says, I made a choice vineyard. And then if you take it all the way to John 15, Jesus says, I'm the true vine. And he's using this picture across the Bible of Israel as a vineyard, as a tree. And he says this tree had these different branches branching out. And that was Israel. That was the Jewish nation branching out. But there came a time where God cut off those branches because they produced no fruit. When Jesus was in Israel, in Jerusalem, he cursed a fig tree because it bore no fruit. And it was a picture of Jesus saying, look, if you bear forth no fruit in your lives, you're going to be cut off. So the Jewish nation was pretty much cut off, and then the wild branches, which are the Gentiles or the non-Jews, were grafted into this branch. So now there's a branch, and it's the same branch, it's the same Christ in the middle, but the branches no longer are filled up by all the Jews, but it's Gentiles and some Jews. But the majority of Jews have not believed, but there's still a remnant that are saved. And then Paul defends, because people are going to say, is God just? Is God this? Why is it like this? God says this, lest you be wise in your own sight. I do not want you to be unaware of this mystery, brothers. A partial hardening has come upon Israel until the fullness of Gentiles has come in. And in this way, in this manner, all Israel will be saved, as it is written. So Paul says, you know what? You might not understand why this is happening, but it's for all of Israel to be saved. Because Israel, in the Old Testament, man, they were the people that God chose. They were his chosen people. And he's not fully rejected them. He's saying they're all going to be saved one day. And it says that it's used to show God's mercy. Verse 33 says this, oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, how inscrutable his ways. For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has given a gift to him that he might be repaid? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. Amen. Paul's saying very clearly, look, God's thoughts, Isaiah 55 says, are not our thoughts, neither are his ways our ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are God's thoughts higher than our thoughts. So Paul leaves us to answer the question of what is happening to Israel. The short answer is right now, there's a remnant that will be saved, but eventually in the future, all of Israel will be saved. And our job as Christians is to share the gospel with everyone, whether they're Jewish, non-Jewish, whether they're Catholic, maybe they're Christian, but they're not walking with the faith. Paul says, I make it my aim to preach the gospel everywhere. Thanks.